99% of men are now at the absolute mercy of the modern dating market, reliant on swiping on apps that don't work in their favour, hoping and praying that a girl will join that one group they actually attend, or even that one girl from the office that they know that maybe she'll become single. Well, if you don't want to be in that 99%, there's one skill that you can learn to escape it, and that is learning to approach. However, in the modern day, there's been this kind of zeitgeist change around approaching that so many people are terrified to do it because they're scared to come across as creepy or cringe or strange for going over and just saying hi to a girl. And I get that it's scary. Like, I certainly remember this, that when I was younger, the thought of going across there and saying hi to a girl, I thought you fundamentally couldn't do that, that you needed a reason to be speaking to her. You can't just go over and say hi. But I'm now 1,000 approaches later, and I've started to learn exactly what I think are the basic fundamentals that it takes to go over there and ensure that you do have quite a pleasant interaction. So, my name's Andrew Wilkinson. I am a relationship and dating coach. I help men all around the world get a girlfriend. And I've taken a bunch of guys out and shown them how to approach girls in real life situations. So here are my 3 fundamentals for you to ensure that when you do this on your sort of first few times approaching, that you don't feel like you're coming across as creepy. And the most important one is the start. That is setting. I've ironed out what I believe are the best settings to start doing approaching, especially when you're new at the beginning, where there's just a little bit of an easier environment and less pressure. So, the environment of choice is either in a city centre where it's like a busy high street, or in like a park. And what we're going for is any area that has really high foot traffic. So when you'll actually see a bunch of people, but it creates this anonymity of the crowd. One of the worst things that a guy can do when he's just starting out and maybe he's not quite as sophisticated in his approach, he's not quite learned how to portray himself in the most confident manner. He'll go up to a girl at like a coffee shop or a really intimate closed off environment, and he approaches her and maybe it doesn't land that well. And then he just has to awkwardly sit there, just like across the way. She feels awkward, he feels awkward, and then he puts himself off ever approaching anyone ever again. I know for me, one of the only times where I'd consider it like a really big fail when I went across and approached someone was because I was in a cafe and it was the waitress and I just misread a signal, went for it, and it just didn't go that well. And then it was really awkward and it was just like, I just ended up leaving because it was awkward and we were both kept together. What approaching girls on like a busy high street or in a park does is mean that there's very little pressure on the interaction, that if you walk up and it goes well, if it goes badly, well, you're gone afterwards. You've just like melted into the crowd of people that are moving, going about their day. And it's just, there's all these people moving around and it creates this kind of, as I say, anonymity in the crowd. And this doesn't mean you can never go up to a girl that's in a cafe. I also don't recommend public transport to start off with. If she's on a train or on a bus, it's a higher risk strategy because it is just that claustrophobic environment where it feels like if it didn't go exactly to plan, you can't separate afterwards. So once you get a bit more skilled with this, sure, like I've gone up to girls in cafes and on public transport and it's been fine, but I was 100 approaches deep at that point and knew how I could approach it in a way that would allow us both to feel comfortable. So first and foremost is the setting. Daytime as well. For your first approach, the ideal environment is you look in your city or even the next closest city. I've done this when I'm back in the UK and I come from a small town. I'm not going to go out approaching there because they're all old people and it's not cool. So I just go to the next city over and then I'll just walk around there, sort of like Market Square on a Saturday, and I'll just walk up to girls and say hi there. Because in the daytime, girls feel safe, there's more people out. A lot of what we're trying to do here is create this kind of safe and anonymous environment where you can just have these kind of frequent interactions and none of it comes with any big consequence. So starting off learning that approaching during the daytime, high foot traffic public area that isn't something where you have to have continuity after. That if you walk up, you say hi, she just isn't interested, she can just walk off. And she'll never see that as creepy. Like, the worst you'll be at that point is an inconvenience that you just got in her way while she was going to work, or you got in her way while she was going to catch a train. Like, whatever it is, picking your environment is key because it sets a lot of the tone, and that takes a lot of pressure off. So look what's close to you. Where you've got like a next city over, or if you live in a city, go out on a weekend, on a Saturday, probably between the hours of kind of like 11 and 3, just like high turnover foot traffic. The girl that I'm dating now, I met because I went to a city centre on a Saturday at around 1 p.m. or something, and she was just out shopping. I just walked up to her and said hi. So getting your environment right is essential to not coming across weird and creepy. If you start going up to girls when it's dark, like in claustrophobic environments, you're asking for trouble because you've not done enough reps to be able to do this without having the natural nervousness come through, which creates a weird vibe. Okay, so secondly, this one's really important because if you do this one wrong, you'll also just almost guarantee that the approach won't go well. That, never mind coming across creepy, you just won't have a good approach. And that is, allow her to see you first. One of the biggest mistakes guys make is if they see a girl and maybe she's walking the other way, he'll catch up and just jump out at her. Or if she's walking towards him, he'll be in his head of like, am I going to speak to her? Am I going to speak to her? Yeah. And he jumps across and then suddenly, like, the interaction's happened and she's just caught so off guard. Because the thing is, think of it from her perspective, like, you know you're going to try and speak to her. She's just there living her own day, thinking about whatever's on Netflix. And then suddenly there's a guy in her face. There needs to be this kind of warm-up for her to be able to be like, something's about to happen. I'm not quite sure what, but this guy is walking towards me. He's made eye contact with me. He's smiling, so it must be positive. Okay, he's talking to me. That's the process that you want her to go through in your mind. So making it quite clear and allowing yourself to be in her sort of like parameter of vision prior to going over is really key. Just because it smooths that transition, it's not jarring. Because as soon as you startle a girl, she's just going to be like, oh, I don't know what this is. I'm going. And it'll be easier for you to come across as creepy and weird that way because you've just activated her fight or flight, and that's not going to be easy to deal with. So instead, making eye contact first, going over with a smile, so she's not thinking, oh my god, this guy wants to kill me. It's like, oh, this guy's smiling, he's coming over, I wonder what this is. Oh, he thinks I'm cute, cool. Do I think he's interesting? Yes, no. And then she decides if she wants to have the conversation or not. But how this looks is, say the girl is walking away from you, and how you're going to sort of get in her vision. I've done it before where you just kind of catch up and then go about 3 steps ahead and then just kind of pivot and then come into like her path. Yeah, the way that she's walking, but I've come in front of her so she can now see me. So she's seen that I'm in her vision, my head's turned, and then I've sort of come across and she's been able to be like, oh, this guy wants to talk to me. So don't make the mistake of startling the girl. It doesn't work well. If she's sat on the bench, also be sort of walking towards her and being quite direct about it. Girls have a sixth sense that even if it looks like she's engrossed on her phone or something, we know when someone is almost walking directly towards us. And then when you go to make the interaction, this is key, okay? Proximity. If you mess this one up, girls will find it weird. That if you get way too close to her too fast, she'll find that uncomfortable. She'll think it's creepy. You're not socially attuned enough for her to find you attractive, because part of her understanding that you are an attractive guy is the fact that you can understand what is socially acceptable distance. When you don't, when you intrude across, like, coming up too close to her boundaries, that's a red flag for a girl, because she's just like, oh, this guy either doesn't respect my boundaries, huge red flag, or he doesn't understand them, that people need to stand at this distance, which suggests he's socially isolated and doesn't have many relationships or friends, also red flag. So in either instance, if you've come up too close, it's not going to go well. You're going to come across as creepy. So when you approach, allow yourself to be in her vision, and also just allow yourself to have that bit of distance. You don't need to be kind of right next to each other. Maybe to visualize, you'd be something like somewhere between 1.5 to 2 meters away. And then at the point that she seems to acknowledge you, and maybe it's positive, you can step a little bit closer, but you don't want to get into this habit of kind of like chasing in. One of the things that girls will do is the more they're interested, they'll start to close the gap with you. And the more they're not interested, they'll start to pull away a bit. And the worst thing, this is what girls find creepy, okay? So do not do this. If she takes a step back, don't then take a step forward to follow her, because then it feels like not only are you chasing her, but once again, you have no respect for her boundaries. You're not aware of her. You don't care, essentially. You don't care about how she's feeling or what she's comfortable with. And you're already a stranger. And imagine what that feels like for a girl to be like, okay, there's this stranger here that doesn't seem to care about my boundaries. I am not talking to him. So going in with a level of respect always does really well. And she will start to close the gap if she's feeling the conversation, she's comfortable with you. And that will allow you to come across as someone that knows what he's doing, which is attractive. So first, location, time, logistics, that kind of thing. Secondly, is that approach of vision and proximity mixed together. And then finally, I think I only really want to give you 3 points to this, because this isn't advanced approaching for seducing a model. This is literally, if you've not really done it that much, maybe you've got out there 1 or 2 times, or maybe you've never even done it at all, which honestly is the fact for so many guys out there, that they won't have approached a girl. But once again, I refer you back, it's like, if you want to feel like you have any control of your life, well, your dating life especially, this is the skill that you will have to learn. It's like, otherwise, you're just waiting around. How can you see yourself as this high agency guy that is going out into the world who gets what he wants if he's just kind of sat twiddling his thumbs, waiting for some girl to eventually turn up in his life, waiting for someone to like him on Tinder and to respond and finally go on a date with him, versus the guy that knows, oh, you know what? I've been pretty productive recently, but it'd be awesome to have a relationship right now. You know what I'll do? The next 2 weekends, I think I'm going to go out and I'm just going to see if I can speak to 10 different girls and see what happens. That guy is attractive and gets to live the adventurous life that he wants. I've done this multiple times when I've been in places, cities that I've never been to before, and I'm just like, cool, okay, well, let's go meet some people. And I'll go out and just meet girls that way, rather than just sat about waiting. So my third point, and my final one to basically make that early interaction easy, is speech pace. Biggest mistake guys make, rushing in and being like, okay, I'm going to speak to this one. Hi, how are you? Oh, you look pretty today. What are you doing? And a girl is just like, the hell? What is all this? It's that same thing again, that she isn't calibrated to you coming over. She's not expecting you to be there. You've jumped into her day and you've just exploded with all of this stuff, and she's just like, no, I don't know what this is. So learning to be a bit calmer when you go over and just being slower with how you speak. Sometimes I've simply gone over and just been like, hi, because everyone knows how to respond to that. They will simply say, hi. And it's like, hey, I thought you looked awesome and I just wanted to come speak to you. What are you up to today? Or what are you doing right now? And it's just like, oh, cool. We're in a bit of a conversation. She'd be like, oh, well, I'm going to work, I'm busy, see you later. Or, oh, I'm out shopping, I'm doing this kind of thing. The 3-step process for any approach is, I saw you, so I thought I was kind of interested. So I've come across to see if we have chemistry, to see if we get on. And if we do, I'm going to ask you out on a date. And there's nothing wrong with that. Seeing it as just this 3-step process of, oh, I acknowledge you. You looked really cool as you were walking by. You look confident. You look like you were driven. You were going somewhere. So I wanted to come say hi because you've got my initial attention. And I wanted to see if we were compatible. Like, I'm not saying this is what you would say to her, but this is the process going through and the vibe you give off. It's just like, oh, I saw you. I wanted to see if we were compatible. And if we are, I'm going to ask you out on a date. And that's normal. If you communicate that as being something normal for you, she'll feel like it's normal. So speech pace is key. Of just being like, hi, what's your name? I thought you looked really beautiful today. I love that dress. It's incredible. Whatever you want to go, it's difficult to give the opening line because it's always contextual. The worst thing you could do is think you need a specific opening line. When simply put, hi is one of the most powerful opening lines. I've just gone up to a girl and be like, hi, that hat's awesome. And they'll be like, okay, he's cute, I'll talk to him, that kind of thing. So, controlling your speech pace and understanding, I'm going to put a tiny little note on this, that small talk is perfectly fine. People have in this idea that they've seen a movie of like they get into a fucking interaction and suddenly they're talking about all their fucking family issues and all their deep trauma or whatever they want to do with their life in the future. It's like you don't need any of that. You're already having what is quite a unique interaction that's going to be high emotion, high energy just because you don't know each other. The purpose of small talk is to kind of attune to each other and calibrate to each other's sort of speech pace and speech style and just allow things to calm down because it is quite a wild and interesting thing you're doing. So don't be afraid to just ask fairly mundane questions. Like, oh, cool. What are you doing here? Oh, you're on holiday, are you? Oh, cool. What do you think of Budapest? It's like, cool. And then you create some kind of launch off point from that because you have that basic conversation already down. Okay. And that's what I've got for you. Don't worry yourself too heavily going in. We just keep these simple principles in play and you'll not come across as creepy. If you're polite, you go across with a smile, have some small talk. No one's ever going to call the police on a guy that just went over and said hi. Like, all you are at most is an inconvenience. But also, you could be a future husband. And that's the thing. That's the gamble we get to play. So stop seeing this as you're irritating the world. Like, you're going out there and giving a gift of connection. And that's what it is. You're stepping up to the plate and giving that gift of connection out to people who are going to have a mundane day anyway. So, if you wanted to play to your advantage, I will say this. It does help if you can physically present yourself in such a manner that she's more likely to give you an opportunity. Like, it's a brutal truth, but there is multiple times where I've asked a girl later on why she kind of stopped to speak to me, and she was like, oh, well, you look quite cute, so I was interested in what you had to say. It's like they were willing to give me some time based on general physical appearance of how I present myself. And for men, a lot of that comes down to your physical conditioning. And for me especially, I'm really lazy. So to be in good shape is actually a challenge, and I developed a bunch of different systems to allow me to still be a real lazy bastard whilst being able to get in shape. So if you want to know how you can improve your physique and be in a position where a girl's going to give you maybe that extra few seconds, maybe that extra bit of interest, check out this video here where I break down exactly how I stay in pretty good shape while still being quite a lazy guy.